Hello my crochet friends, this is Sarah from Ned and Mimi, and in this video we are going to crochet this quick chunky tote bag. Now while you can make this bag just by watching the video, I do recommend that you also follow along with the free crochet pattern which is available on my website nedandmimi.com, and I have linked to that below. I really love the texture of this bag, which we get by using a variation on the basic single crochet stitch called the spiked single crochet or simply the spike stitch, and in the video we'll cover exactly how to work this stitch as well as how to shape your bag and make the crochet straps too. And of course, if you do have a second to like this video and subscribe, that will be absolutely amazing. Before we get started crocheting, let's just take a quick look at the materials that we are going to need. So for your bag, you are going to need a weight 5 or a bulky weight yarn. And for mine, I used Billow from WeCrochet, which is 100% pima cotton yarn. So for bags, a cotton or cotton blend yarn is a really good choice because it's strong, it's durable. The fibre doesn't have a lot of stretch, which means that your bag is going to hold its shape. So for my bag, I use 2 different colours, and I have listed the amounts of both of those below, as well as the total amount if you just want to make your bag in a solid colour. Now you will also need a 5mm or size 8 crochet hook, and this might seem a little small for using with a bulky weight yarn, but the reason is that I wanted the stitches to be nice and tight and the fabric to be a little bit stiff, a little bit dense, and not have too much drape, and that again is to just help the bag hold its shape. And then finally, you're going to need some stitch markers. So you can get away with just having one to mark the start of each round, but I found that it was helpful to have a couple of extra ones to mark the increase points when we're doing the curved section of the oval shape at the base of the bag. So you can use those as well if you like. So without further ado, let us start crocheting. So let us get started as always with a slip knot. And now I'm going to work my starting chain. So for the bag, you are going to chain 32, but I'm actually going to make a slightly smaller sample here. So I'm just going to chain 12. So the pattern and the increases and everything will be the same. It's just that you'll obviously have more stitches in the base of the actual bag. So let me start with my chain 12. Okay, so it's okay if these chains seem a little bit tight, they'll be fine. We want the base of the bag to be nice and sturdy. And now I'm just going to single crochet all the way along the chain, skipping the first chain from the hook and beginning in the second chain. All right, so I have just one chain left to work into, and I'm going to work 3 single crochets into this last chain, and that is going to help us turn the corner so that we can work the rest of the round down the base of the chain, so into the bottom of those chains. All right, so that's our corner turned. So now I'm just going to continue working into the bottom of all of those chains all the way along, and I'm going to start working over my tail here as well. All right, so I'm almost back to the start, and I just have one more chain left to work into here, and that is the chain where we worked that very first single crochet. And into this last chain, I am going to work another 3 single crochet stitches. Now, you might think that this is a little bit strange because at this end, we have 3 stitches turning the corner, and at this one we actually have 4. So remember, we have 1 going into the second chain from the hook, and then we have 3 going into that exact same chain. And this is actually done on purpose because I want to have an odd number of stitches in this first round. And the reason is that once we start working the alternating spike stitches, having this odd number is going to mean that the seam where we're starting and ending the round is going to be completely invisible. So you actually won't be able to tell where the start and end of the round is, and I think that's really nice. If we had an even number of stitches here, the seam would be a little bit more visible and you'd be able to tell where we had started and ended the rounds. So for now, it is going to seem a little bit uneven that you have more stitches on one side than another, but once we get into the pattern and once we fold up the base of the bag, it's going to be completely invisible and the seam is also going to be invisible, which is great. So let us continue on now with round 2. So we're just going to start with a single crochet in that first stitch. So we're not joining or anything. All of our rounds are going to be worked in a continuous spiral with no joins. So I am going to be careful to just mark that first stitch here so that we don't lose track of it. And we're just going to move that stitch marker up on each round. So I'll continue to single crochet along until we come to those 3 stitches. So here I am at those 3 stitches that we used to turn the corner, and now I'm just going to work 2 single crochets into each of the next 3 stitches. And that is going to create the curved shape and help us to get back to the opposite edge. Now, so I am actually just going to insert a stitch marker into the first of those 6 stitches, and that's just going to help me keep track of where my increases are for the subsequent rounds. So now I just need to keep going along the rest of this round with single crochets until I come to the final 3 stitches, and I'm going to work another set of increases there. Okay, so here we are, just 3 stitches left to work, and I'm going to do my increases there as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I'm back to the start of the round, and again I'm just going to mark that increase point there just so we keep track of it later. All right, so that is round 2 done, and now you can see the base of our bag is starting to take shape. So moving straight into round 3 now, we are not going to join or anything, we'll just remove our stitch marker and continue working in a spiral. So the first stitch of round 3 is a little bit more interesting. It is going to be our spiked single crochet stitch. So a spiked single crochet is just a single crochet stitch. The only difference is where you insert your hook. So normally we'd be working into these top 2 loops here, but for the spike stitch, we're actually going to work into the very first row. So we're going to insert our hook here under the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we have to pull up a long loop to the height of the current row and then just yarn over and complete the stitch. So it's just a normal single crochet stitch, but worked 2 rows down. So that's very, very easy. And our next stitch is going to be a single crochet, but it's going to be worked in the back loop only. So not going into the 2 loops, just going into that back loop. And I'm just going to pop in my stitch marker there again to keep track of the start of the round. So now I'm just going to repeat that pattern of spike single crochet back loop only, all the way along to my increase section. So again, just inserting our hook beneath that next stitch, pulling up a long loop and then yarn over and pull through. Alrighty, so let us continue on turning the corner. So the next stitch is going to be a spiked single crochet, and then to do our increase, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the back loop of the next stitch. And again, we'll just mark that increase point there. And let's repeat that twice more. So we'll do a spiked single crochet and then 2 single crochets in the back loop. Okay, so that's the corner turned and we've kept our pattern going. So now I'm just going to continue on with that same pattern until we come to the next increase section. Okay, so we have just 1 stitch left to work before our next set of increases. And on this side, because we do have an uneven number of stitches, we're going to start that increase repeat one stitch earlier. So I'm just going to take out my stitch marker, do my spiked single crochet in the next stitch, then I'll do my increase, and I'm going to mark that spiked single crochet. So it does seem like we are starting to do the increase a little bit earlier than we are on the opposite side, but don't worry, it's going to turn out absolutely fine. So let's continue with another spiked single crochet, then we'll do our 2 increases. And now we just have 1 extra stitch left to work into, and we're going to do a final spiked single crochet into that stitch, and that's going to complete our 3rd round. So if we lay it out flat, you can see the curve is slightly different on this side, but it is very imperceptible, I think. And as the bag gets a little bigger and as we're folding over the base, it'll become completely invisible that there's an extra stitch at that side. So let us continue on with round 4. So this round is going to start with a single crochet in the back loop only, so the opposite of what we did for the previous round. So we'll do our single crochet in the back loop there, mark that stitch, and then our next stitch is going to be a spike stitch. So just finding where we made that previous single crochet and just inserting our hook there, pulling up a long loop as normal, and that's our spike stitch made. And we can just continue on with that pattern all the way along. Okay, so here we are at our next increase section. So I'll just pop out my marker. So my next stitch is going to be the single crochet in the back loop. So as normal, and we'll just mark that stitch. And now I am going to do my next increase. So I am going to do a spike crochet as normal. Then in the next stitch, I'm going to do my single crochet in the back loop. And then in the same stitch, I'm going to do another spike. So I'm going to be inserting my hook into the exact same place where I inserted it for that last spike stitch that we just made. So in we go there, and that's our next spike stitch made. Okay, so you can kind of see what we've basically done there is gone from 1, 2, 3 stitches to 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. So that's our increase done. And we're just going to repeat that twice more to turn around the corner. Alright, so that is the curve continued along there. And now we just repeat the pattern until we come to our next stitch marker. Alrighty, so pop out the stitch marker and then just begin that increase where we're turning our 3 stitches here into 4. So we're single crochet in the back loop, then our spike, single crochet in the next stitch, and then the spike again into that same point. And again, at the end of this round, we have 1 extra stitch left to work, and we're just going to work our single crochet in the back loop in there. Alrighty, so that is round 4 done. So moving straight into round 5, we are going to start this round exactly the same way as we did for round 3. So we're going to begin with our spike stitch and mark that, and then just work in pattern until we come to the next marker. Okay, so time for the next set of increases. So let's just remove that marker. Now our next stitch is going to be a spike single crochet. Then we'll do our increase, which is just the 2 single crochets in the back loop. And let's pop that marker back in here. Now my next 2 stitches are just going to be worked in pattern. So we'll do a single crochet, a spiked single crochet, and then a single crochet in the back loop. And now we begin the increase pattern again. So we do our spike single crochet, then our 2 stitches, 2 single crochets in the back loop, another spike, and another regular single crochet in the back loop. So almost there, just one more repeat of that pattern to do. So we'll do our spike stitch, our increase, okay, so that is the next turn done. And now just continuing along again until we come to the next marker. And now we're just going to work the increases on this side in exactly the same way. And we also just have 1 stitch left to work here as always, and it's going to be our spike single crochet. So just continuing in the pattern. Okay, so after round 5, you can see that our 2 curves here are pretty similar. They're not identical, but they are very, very close. So we've just 1 more increase round left to work, and then we will be getting into the body of the bag and just working even rounds, so no increases. So they're going to be much more straightforward. So let's begin round 6. Our next stitch is a regular single crochet in the back loop, and then working in pattern to that next stitch marker. Alrighty, so our next stitch is going to be our single crochet in the back loop, and you can actually leave the stitch marker aside for now because we're not going to need it anymore, seeing as this is our last increase round, and we're just going to do our next increase. So it's going to be spike stitch in the next stitch. This is exactly the same way that we increased in round 4. So spike stitch, single crochet, and then spike stitch, working into that same point. So that's our increase done. We are just going to work 2 more stitches as normal and then begin that increase pattern again. So we'll do our single crochet in the back loop, our spike stitch, our single crochet, and then the spike stitch into that same point. And then just 2 more regular stitches. Okay, and then just work that increase once more and then work in pattern until we come to this next stitch marker. So working our last set of increases now, we'll do our single crochet in the back loop, spike stitch, single crochet in the back loop, and then spike stitch again, inserting our hook into the same point as we did for the previous spike stitch. And at the end of this round, as always, we have one extra stitch left to work, so we're just going to pop our final single crochet in the back loop in there. And that is the base of the bag done. So we have our two curved edges here, and I think you'll probably be able to see what I mean here about the seam now. So it's actually really difficult looking at it unless you have the stitch marker to figure out where the round started and ended. So the rest of the bag is so simple. We are just going to work in pattern, so alternating our spike stitch and our single crochet in the back loop the whole way around, and then just keep repeating that for the number of rows that you need for the bag. So for my bag, I worked a total of 47 rounds. So that's starting at round 1, so a total of 47. So 6 increase rounds and then the 41 even rounds. And I did change colour at round 32, I think it was, but you can do whatever you like colour-wise. You can do stripes, you could do a solid colour, whatever you like. So now I'll just work one round just to show you exactly how it's going to look, and then you'll be able to continue on by yourself until we come to the top of the bag. So we'll begin with our spike stitch, and very important to keep marking that first stitch because it's so easy to lose track of it. And then we're just going to work in pattern the whole way around. Okay, so that is our round 7 done, just our even round, and it's very, very straightforward. And round 8 is just going to be pretty much exactly the same, except we're going to be starting with a single crochet in the back loop and then also finishing with a single crochet in the back loop. So all you need to do is just repeat those 2 rounds, so round 7 and 8, until your bag is the height that you want. So you can make it exactly the same size as what I did, or you can make it slightly larger. It is completely up to you. So now I am going to jump ahead to the top of the bag just to show you how to finish it off and how to make and attach the straps. Okay, so I have finished my bag. If only it was that quick in real life. So I have done a total of 47 rounds in this bag. I did 32, I think, of the purple and then 15 of this natural colour. And if we just have a quick look here down along this line, this is actually where our seam is, a seam in inverted commas, so the start and the end of the round. And as you can see, it's pretty invisible. So I think having that extra stitch on one side was worth it just to have this look. So just to finish off, I am going to do a simple round of slip stitches all the way around the top edge of the bag. So it's going to be super easy. We will just slip stitch through both loops all the way along, and I'll just mark that first stitch there so I don't lose track of it. And then when we come back to the start of the round, I will show you how I finish off this round of slip stitches with an invisible join, just so the effect is really, really seamless. Okay, so I am almost finished my round of slip stitches and I just have one more stitch to work, but I'm not actually going to work a slip stitch into that final stitch. I am going to show you how to do the invisible join. So what I have done is I have cut my yarn and I'm just going to pull it all the way through. So leaving that last stitch unworked, and then I'm just going to thread this tail with my yarn needle. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take out this stitch marker, and I am going to go through both loops of that very first slip stitch with my yarn needle. So just through there. And then we'll just pull gently on that, and it's going to create kind of a false stitch over the last stitch in the round. So we just pull gently there. And now what I'm going to do is go back through the center of the last slip stitch that I just made. So in through here and then all the way at the back. And just pull that through. And now if I pull really gently there, we have made what looks like a slip stitch. So it's that fall stitch, and I think it just looks completely seamless. So I absolutely love that look. So now all I need to do is just weave this tail in at the back of my work, and we'll be ready to move on to the straps. Okay, so let us get on with making our straps. So the first thing to notice here is that you will need to leave quite a nice long tail. So I didn't measure it exactly, but just enough for you to be able to attach the strap onto the inside of the bag and weave in your ends. So we'll leave our long tail and start with a slip knot. And now I am just going to chain 2. And I didn't want my straps to be too thick, so I am going to work 3 single crochet stitches into the second chain from the hook, so that very first chain that we made. But if you want your straps to be thicker, you can easily work 5 or 6 single crochets into that first chain. So there's number 1, and I'm actually just going to mark that with a stitch marker because it's just going to make our lives a little bit easier in a second. So that's 1, 2, 3, so I'll just pull that there. And now what is interesting about this method of working a strap is that we're going to kind of fold the stitches inwards. So the front of the single crochets is going to be on the inside of the strap, and what's going to be visible actually is on the outside. And what we're going to do is just work a single crochet in each of those 3 stitches, but into the back loop only. So if we flip around here to the start of that previous row, we have our stitch marker, and we are going to work into this back loop. So this loop in here. And I find the stitch marker handy just for the first couple of rounds, and after a while you won't even need it, but just for the first couple of rounds I think it's quite handy. So I'll take out that stitch marker, work our single crochet there into the back loop. So that's 1. Now you can mark this again if you like. There we go. So that's 1. Then here's our next back loop. 2. And here's our next back loop. 3. So the back loop is going to naturally rotate up towards you, so it's not really that difficult to see. And now we're just going to repeat that for as long as we need. So there's another one. We have 1, 2, and 3. So if you decided to make a thicker strap, the method is going to be exactly the same. You'll just have more stitches in each round. Now, if you want, you can keep marking the first stitch with your marker, but after a while I just decided to stop, and because there's only 3 stitches in the round, I pretty much just kept counting 1, 2, 3 until my strap was as long as I like. So let's just work a few more rounds, and then I'll just show you how I finished off the end of the strap. Okay, so you can see what it's going to look like. Now it's going to be a little bit stretchy, but especially because I'm using 100% cotton yarn, it's not going to stretch that much. So it will stretch a little, but not too much. So I would suggest making your straps about 30 inches long. You can absolutely make them longer if you wish, but I think 30 inches is a pretty good length. And if you lose track of your 1, 2, 3s somewhere in the middle, don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure I did for at least one of my straps, and it's going to make absolutely no difference. So to finish off the strap, we are just going to work a single crochet 2 together into the first 2 stitches. So it's going to be very easy, and we're going to go into the back loop as we have been doing all along. So we'll just insert our hook into that first back loop, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now don't complete the stitch, twist it around a little, insert it into the next back loop and pull up a loop. So now we have 3 loops on our hook, and I did attempt to do a single crochet 3 together, but I actually just couldn't rotate it around to get it into that last stitch, so I decided to finish with a single crochet 2 together. So we'll just yarn over, pull through, and then we just fasten off and leave the same length of tail on this side for sewing the opposite end. And that's it. So you can go ahead and make 2 of those straps, and then we will sew them onto our bag. Okay, so here are my 2 straps, again made super quickly, and now it is time to attach those on. So what I have done here is measure about 5.5 inches or so from each edge, and then pop in some stitch markers, and I did the same on the opposite side, and then I just did a quick count all the way around here to make sure that I had the same number of stitches on either side. So I have already threaded my needle, and what I want to do is position the strap at the stitch marker and leave a good couple of inches here. So in hindsight, I kind of wish I had made my straps a little bit longer just so I could come down a little bit further here. And the main reason is that the strap is going to pull on the top of the bag a little bit. So if we can just attach it further down, it won't pull so much. But anyway, this is where I am. So I'm going to leave 3 or so inches here. So if you can leave a little bit more, that's actually fantastic as well. And I'm just going to sew the strap on at the position of the stitch marker. So I am going to just come down here and find the back of, and that is just giving me my positions for and just strap sewing. So this isn't an exact science, and I am definitely not the world's greatest seamstress. So I'm just going to do my best, and I'm just working over the strap with the tail and inserting it into the back of those stitches. Making sure not to go all the way through, because you do not want this to be visible on the right side of your work. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for each of the straps, and then the bag will be done. And there we have it, we're all done. I really hope you have enjoyed making this tote bag with me, and if you do have a second to subscribe, that would be absolutely great. And I have lots more tutorials and patterns on my channel and on my website nedandmimi.com, so do check those out. Happy crocheting and take care.